Welcome to the Minute of Terror channel. Leave your like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment where you are watching this video from.
My name is Oscar, and this story happened about 30 years ago when I was around 17. It was a time when life seemed simpler, but also tougher, especially for those of us living out in the countryside. Our house was about 10 miles from the nearest town, a small place called San Miguel, tucked away in the heart of Jalisco. It was an adobe house with a tin roof that rattled when it rained, surrounded by nothing but brush, a few cows, and a silence that seemed to swallow everything. My grandma, Dona Carmen, was the one who kept the family together. My dad left when I was little, and my mom worked in town, so it was just me, my grandma, and my younger brother, Chief. That day, the sun was already setting, and the late afternoon heat made my shirt stick to my back. My grandma was sick. She'd been coughing nonstop for days, a dry cough that seemed to tear the air out of her. The medicine she took had run out, and money was tight, but I'd scraped together enough to buy more at the town pharmacy. The problem was getting there. We didn't have a car, and the bus only came through in the morning. My only option was to hitch a ride on the dirt road that cut through the area, a dusty stretch where a truck or a cart might pass every now and then. I remember standing by the roadside, clutching a small sack with a few coins I had and a slip of paper with the medicine's name. The sky was turning orange, with streaks of purple on the horizon, and the breeze carried the smell of dry earth. There I was, sticking out my arm every time I heard an engine in the distance. 2 cars sped by without slowing down, and a rancher in a pickup gave me a suspicious look before flooring it. I was starting to lose hope when I saw an old truck, one of those with a half-rotted wooden bed, coming my way slowly. I raised my arm, and to my surprise, it stopped. The driver was a skinny guy, his skin baked by the sun, with a scruffy beard and sunken eyes that didn't seem to blink. He wore a faded plaid shirt and a dirty cap with a Motor Oil brand logo. "Where you headed, kid?" he asked in a raspy voice that dragged out the words. "San Miguel," I answered, trying to sound confident. He gave a half smile, like he knew something I didn't, and said, "Hop in. That's where I'm going." I climbed into the truck, and the smell of oil and stale cigarettes hit me like a slap. The seat was hard, the upholstery torn, with bits of yellowed foam spilling out the rips. The radio was off, and the only sounds were the engine's hum and the crunch of tires on the dirt road. As he drove, I started to take a closer look at the guy. His hands were big, calloused, and his fingers tapped the steering wheel like they were following a tune only he could hear. I tried to make small talk to break the silence. "You from San Miguel?" I asked. He glanced at me sideways, without turning his head, and said, "Nah, just pass through now and then. The road's my thing." The conversation died there, and the silence came back, heavy as a rock. That's when I noticed something off. The truck had a loose canvas curtain behind the seats, swaying with the bumps. Through a gap, I saw something that turned my stomach. There was a woman back there, sprawled on the floor of the cab. She was lying on her side, her face half covered by dark, tangled hair. I couldn't tell if she was alive or not. Her body looked limp, like a rag doll tossed aside. My heart started racing, but I didn't say anything. I don't know why, but I figured it was better to act like I hadn't seen a thing. The driver must have noticed my silence, because he started talking again, unprompted. "You know, kid, the road's got its stories. Weird stuff happens out here at night." He let out a low laugh, almost like a growl. "I've seen things you wouldn't believe. People who vanish, lights that appear out of nowhere, voices calling from the dark." He spoke slowly, like he was savoring every word. "One time, I gave a ride to a guy like you, about your age. He was desperate, said he had to get away from someone. Guess what happened to him?" I swallowed hard, feeling a chill creep up my spine. "What?" I asked, barely above a whisper. He laughed again, louder this time. "Nothing. He got where he was going. Never saw him again, though. Funny, right?" He turned to look at me for the first time, and his eyes seemed to glint in the dim light of the cab. The road swallows up folks who don't pay attention. I didn't know what to say. My mind was stuck on the image of the woman behind the seat. Was she alive? Did he know I'd seen her? Every mile felt like it stretched time, and the truck seemed to move slower and slower. He kept telling stories, each one darker than the last. He talked about a driver who picked up a faceless hitchhiker, a truck that showed up on full moon nights and vanished without a trace, a woman who hitched a ride and left behind a rotting smell. He told each story with a kind of glee that gave me goosebumps. I just nodded, pretending to listen, while my brain scrambled for what to do. When we finally rolled into San Miguel, it was dark. The town's lights looked feeble against the blackness of the countryside. The driver pulled over at the start of the main street, near the pharmacy. "This is a kid," he said, not looking at me. "Thanks," I mumbled, already opening the door. Before I got out, I glanced back through the gap in the curtain. The woman was still there, motionless. I thought her hair might have shifted a bit, but I wasn't sure. I jumped out of the truck as fast as I could, not looking back, and headed straight for the pharmacy. I bought the medicine with shaking hands, my heart still pounding. The pharmacist asked if I was okay, and I just nodded, not saying a word. When I left the pharmacy, the truck was still there, parked at the corner. The driver was leaning against the door, smoking a cigarette, staring at me from a distance. I don't know if it was my imagination, but I swear he smirked, like he knew exactly what was going through my head. There was no way I was getting back in that truck. No chance. I decided I'd walk home, even if it took hours. The dirt road seemed even darker at night, the silence broken only by crickets and the sound of my footsteps. Every shadow felt alive. Every rustle in the brush felt like someone following me. I clutched the medicine bottle to my chest like it was a talisman. My mind kept replaying the woman's image, the way the driver talked, the glint in his eyes. What if he was following me? What if she was dead? Or worse, what if she wasn't? With every step, I tried to reason it out. Maybe she was just a passenger. Maybe she was asleep. But then why didn't he mention her? Why was she lying there like that? My thoughts spun in circles, and the fear grew with every yard I walked. The night was cold, the wind sharp as a blade. I picked up my pace, almost running, but the road felt endless. At one point, I heard a sound in the distance, like a truck's engine. My heart nearly stopped. I looked back, but there were no lights, no nothing. Just darkness. When I finally got home, it was past midnight. My grandma was awake, coughing in bed. I gave her the medicine and sat by her side, holding her hand until she fell asleep. I didn't tell anyone what happened. Not cheap. Not my mom when she came back the next day. I kept that night locked inside me, a secret too heavy to share. I never hitched a ride again. Even now, when I pass a dirt road at night, I get chills. Sometimes I dream about that truck, the woman behind the seat, the driver's smile. And in some of those dreams, she wakes up and looks at me with eyes that have no bottom. I don't know what happened to her or who that man was, but I know the road holds secrets, and some are better left alone. My name is Luz, and this story happened 7 years ago, on a night that still wakes me up in a cold sweat. I was 29 at the time, working as a receptionist at a clinic in Guadalajara, living in a small town about 25 miles away called Mecca. Every day, I'd catch the last bus at 10 p.m. to get home. But that night, everything went wrong. The bus came early, or I got delayed. I'm not sure. All I know is, when I reached the stop, the street was empty and the July cold cut like a knife. With no money for a taxi and no other options, I decided to walk to a gas station about a mile away on the edge of Highway 90 to try and hitch a ride. The gas station was run down, with flickering fluorescent lights and a diesel smell that clung to your clothes. There was a little diner with plastic tables and a radio playing corridos softly. A few truckers were scattered around, drinking coffee or smoking, and I felt small under their stares. Still, I took a deep breath and started asking if anyone was headed to a Mecca. Most shook their heads or ignored me. Then a guy sitting at a corner table raised his hand. "I'm going that way, miss," he said, his voice deep and booming. He was a big guy with a thick, messy beard, wearing a red cap that matched the shiny Kenworth truck parked outside, glowing under the station's dim lights. I climbed into the cab, trying to ignore the knot in my chest. The truck smelled of stale cigarettes and something sour I couldn't place. The guy, who said his name was Juan, didn't talk much at first. He just started the engine and pulled out, his hands steady on the wheel. I tried to make small talk to ease my nerves. "Been driving trucks long?" I asked. He glanced at me sideways, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Long as I can remember. The road's my home." Then silence. The radio was off, and the only sound were the engine's hum and the tires on the highway. Highway 90 is a straight shot, flanked by tall brush and pitch-black darkness. The streetlights were few and far between, and the night seemed to swallow everything. About 10 miles in, I started to feel something was off. One was too quiet, and his eyes kept flicking toward me. I tried to ignore it, staring out the window, but the fear was growing. That's when he started talking, like he'd been waiting for the right moment. "You know, miss, the road's dangerous for women out here alone. Sometimes people just disappear, and no one knows where they went." He let out a dry laugh that gave me chills. "I've seen weird stuff out here. Women who hitch a ride and never make it to where they're going." I didn't answer. My mouth went dry, and my hands trembled in my lap. I tried to tell myself it was just trucker talk, but something in his voice, calm, almost gleeful, told me it wasn't. Suddenly, he slowed down and pulled the truck over in a deserted stretch of the highway, where there was no light or sign of life. "Gotta check something," he said, cutting the engine. Before I could ask, he opened my door, grabbed my arm hard, and yanked me out. I hit the ground, the gravel scraping my legs. "Stay quiet," he growled, dragging me toward the brush by the roadside. Panic took over. I screamed, but my voice seemed to vanish into the night. He held me with a strength that felt impossible, his face now stripped of a smile, just a cold, empty stare. "No one's going to hear you out here," he said, and those words hit like a punch. He threw me to the ground, and, for a second, as he fumbled with his belt, I saw my chance. My eyes caught a rock on the ground, about the size of a fist. With all the strength I had, I grabbed it and smashed it against his head. He staggered, cursing, and I didn't wait to see what would happen. I ran. The brush was tall and sharp, branches scratching my arms and legs as I bolted without looking back. His footsteps pounded behind me, along with angry shouts. "Get back here, you damn woman!" I didn't know where I was going, just that I had to get away. The darkness was almost total, and the fear made my heart feel like it would burst. I ran until my lungs burned, until I couldn't hear his steps anymore. Then I threw myself to the ground, hiding in the brush, trying to control my breathing to stay silent. I stayed there, shaking for hours, terrified he was waiting, lurking, ready to grab me. When the sky started to lighten with that gray, pre-dawn glow, I dared to move. My legs were torn up, my dress ripped, but I was alive. I started walking, not knowing where I was, driven only by the hope of finding help. The brush seemed endless, and every sound, a bird, the wind, made me jump. After what felt like hours, I saw smoke in the distance, rising in thin wisps. It was a cowboy's camp, some guys rounding up cattle on a nearby ranch. I stumbled out of the brush, my face streaked with dirt and tears. "Please, help me," was all I could say before collapsing. They gathered around, confused, but soon realized I was in trouble. One of them, an older man in a straw hat, gave me water and asked what happened. I told them everything, sobbing, and they exchanged worried looks. "This road's cursed," the old man said. "Ain't the first time we've heard something like this." They took me to the ranch, where the owner's wife gave me clean clothes and food. They called the police, and a patrol car took me back to a Mecca. The cops searched for the red truck, but never found it. They said it could have been a transient driver, someone who knew the area and how to disappear. I couldn't describe his face clearly. The fear had blurred everything except those cold eyes and crooked smile. I went weeks without sleeping, seeing his face in every shadow. Even now, I don't hitch rides or go near gas stations at night. Highway 90 is still there, cutting through the countryside, and sometimes I wonder how many stories like mine it holds. What I know is I escaped by a hair, and the road, with its darkness and secrets, is never as empty as it seems.